And one of Pat's best friends is Gary Weaver, and I invited Gary in case Pat couldn't remember everybody's names. But, I met Pat Foster. He doesn't even know it. Pat's the kind of guy that he makes you think he's your best friend. And that's how he's been successful all his life. I met him somewhere in 74, 75. I was a junior high coach at Waldo, and we went to Fairview, and he met me at the door. Coach, if there's anything you need, you come get me. We appreciate you coming. Made me feel like I think I coached one ball game when we went over there. But I kept up with him over the years, reacquainted, I guess back through Weaver and Buddy Morgan. But everybody's kept up with him through the University of Arkansas. Don McMahon has kept up with him even longer. Don may have played with your brother.
That's right.
at Emerson. So we appreciate Pat. Pat is a busy man. He made me feel guilty because his son had major surgery last week.
What about 3 weeks?
3 weeks ago, and he's been busy running back and forth to Houston, but his son's doing fine. But he never hesitated when I said, I'll be there. So we appreciate Pat coming, and I hope you enjoy it. Pat.
Thank you. Now, he's more of the ball coach, as Steve Spurrier says down at South Carolina. They asked him, we've heard that term a lot. Somebody on the national broadcast asked him some question. He said, I don't know, I'm just a ball coach down here in Florida. But around Emerson and these parts of Columbia County, that was the term that you don't hear that outside of here very much. But he was a ball coach. That's the only reason I got here today. One ball coach helping another, that type of thing. Can you get on that phone and sell 100 shares of Murphy for me? I got me a new phone. I got Steve holding on to it. I don't know how to turn it off. If it goes off, he's to do something with it immediately. But it's we get older, we lose touch with the new technology again. I went to Arkansas in 1972 from Camden Fairview and worked with Eddie Sutton for 7 years, I believe, 6 or 7 years. And then I got a head job at Lamar University down in Beaumont, and then moved to the University of Houston. And I was very fortunate. My experience at Arkansas with Sutton helped me, propel me into a position. We won a lot of games, and it doesn't make any difference how good you are. If you win games, you can get hired. But I didn't make any kind of money like they're making today, I can tell you that. But I'm okay. I don't need any. We won't pass the hat or anything for this speech. I had the opportunity there to work with some people who've been very successful in coaching. And I thought about the time when Harold Horton just retired president of the Raceback Foundation, which is the fundraising arm of the athletic department. And we went to it was in Little Rock. And they had invited Sutton, Holtz, and Broyles, and none of them could go. It was not a Razorback Club meeting. It was some other type meeting. I don't remember what it was. But this guy gets up and he introduces, he says, Harold Horton, Pat Foster said, they've done it, whatever he said. I don't remember what he said, but he said, they're to be commended for surviving, working with the 3 biggest egomaniacs in the history of Arkansas sports. We went, no. Because we were afraid to get back to them. He was mad at them because they had to listen to us instead of them. And I experienced that when I first went to Arkansas when Sutton wouldn't speak at Razorback Club meetings. They handed out the schedule, and I'm not going. He said, I'm not going to any meetings. They happen in the summertime, late spring and summer. So I'd go with Lou Holtz. I didn't go much, but I went 5 or 6 times probably. And so when I got up to speak, I didn't even know him, or come to Arkansas, and I tell him not to play, or, you know, something about so-and-so, this and that. And so he gets up, and he brings out that, have you ever heard him speak to a deal like this? You come to mind or anything? He bring out this newspaper, and you see that? He'd tear that newspaper up and then put it back together, you know, like some magic trick. And then he'd go into this, I mean, mile-a-minute deal, about 20 minutes. I got back to Fayetteville, and I told the guy, it was really by club, schedule those things, and got the coaches to go out to them. I said, you're not doing the university a favor, the University of Athletic Department a favor by sending me anywhere with loopholes to talk, because you don't talk, you don't compete with that. That was way too much. But I did learn a lot. I learned that, you know, in dealing with these people, now Coach Ball is a great speaker, and he could really move a crowd. I mean, I've seen him do it with donors, with all kinds of groups. I mean, he was a motivator at the best. But in watching these people, it was very interesting. And Sam Walton, at that time, was just starting. He had one store in Bentonville. And in thinking about that, Joe Fred Starr, how many of you know Joe Fred Starr? You do. He died last night, and he was the guy that raised the first money for Sam Walton to expand past one store. He was telling me a story about he raised $100,000. 10 guys put up $10,000. This was a long time ago, so I guess 1968 or something, probably. Yeah, it was early on. And so he said a year later, the people got a little nervous. He told me he'd borrowed it for a year. They would give it to him for 1 year. So he goes back up there to see some of them got a little nervous or something. Maybe it was a year and 3 months or something. And so he said, Mr. Walton told him, you can't pay it right now. He said, ask him for a little bit more time. He said, okay. So it goes on 3 or 4 more months, and he goes back and he has the money. He pays them back their money, whatever he owed them. And he didn't have any contact with Mr. Walton for about, 2 or 3 years after that. And he said, in the meantime, they go public, and things start really, really going. And he said he was down at the football game in Little Rock, and he was standing here, and so somebody walked up beside him, and he said, looked around, it was Sam Walton. Sam said, y'all pulled out a little early. There are millionaires all over Northwest Arkansas. I lived outside the state for a long time. I just moved back to Fayetteville recently, for me, from Houston. And it's amazing the number of people who made millions. They started the stock option plans and all that. But I was going to tell you this. His management style had an influence over everybody up there. It really did. As he grew and as time went on, he was one of the most compassionate people that I've seen. He would come over and play tennis with me. He loved to play tennis. And he'd come on Saturday morning and play tennis. And then I had the opportunity to fly with him, because back then we didn't have any regular plane or anything, and we would their secretary would call our secretary on Monday morning, tell us where they were going during the week, to save money, and not to save it, just to get somewhere for recruiting and all that. And I flew in his plane a lot of times, and 7 or 8 times he was on there. And he'd have his people with him, they would select, that was when they were picking out towns where they were going to put Walmarts. We'd fly down low, and he'd make the decision on where to put the deal. But he was, later on, I had a manager. I want to tell you this right quick. I want to move along. I had a manager from West Fork who was helping me at Lamar. I took him down there with me to Lamar when I left Arkansas. And he asked me one day if I'd call somebody. He didn't say Mr. Walton. He said, call somebody at Walmart and see if you get a job. And I said, yeah. So I called up there and talked to his secretary. And so she called back to the day and said, tell him to come on a certain day. So he goes up there. This kid goes up there. And on the day he told him, he shows up in his office, and Miss Walton comes out. He said, "You had lunch?" And he said, "No, sir." He said, "Come on." He said, "Go out and get his pickup truck and go down to some little place where some diner where he had lunch every day." He gave him a job, and that kid was a manager in one of their big stores, became one of their managers at one of their stores in Houston. And that, there are thousands of stories like that. I'm sure you've heard a lot of. But I digress. I mean, I didn't come to talk about Sam Walton, but it was like, now I have come to the conclusion that the arrogance of power is really causing us trouble in this country and at the university and a lot of other places. It causes us trouble in that all of you have some power or control over someone, whether they be members of your family or something. And the way we use that or handle that is really important. You see people now who, I think more than ever, maybe it's because I'm older and out of coaching, but I see it in coaching. You know, I see it where the salaries escalated to the point that they've escalated to that creates an arrogance. It creates, it's like Petrino, for instance. Here's a guy who's given complete control of his program at Arkansas. And I know him, I coach with him at Nevada. And he's hard to handle. There's no question about that in all areas. But he spun completely out of control. I mean, he really did. And that's what we've got to, for our grandchildren and our children, for you younger people, well, we got to take a real lesson in that, or try to teach that lesson to as many people as we possibly can, because it happens with making too much money too fast, and I had that experience with one of my sons. And he made a lot of money in a short period of time. And 3 years later, he didn't have a penny. And it was a curse more than it was a blessing. And so in all the people that I was working around, all the people that I've seen in coaching, you know, and it's really that way in coaching, because people, you know, especially in Arkansas, but everywhere, sports have really gotten to a point where I'm not sure how much they're helping our society. I know when I first started coaching at Fairview, it was, I had more satisfaction from what I did in coaching the high school players than I did later on at the college level. And I have some great kids in college. But it's like, when it's over, put it like that. All right, when I got to the point where I could not deal with today's players anymore, and I quit. Fortunately, I never did get fired. If I'd stayed much longer, I probably would have. But I quit, okay? And I know when you look back on something, then you see it, you know, you can develop a bitterness because this didn't happen or that didn't happen, and we can't let that happen as we get older. We just can't do it. Times change, you know, things change. And it's like the salaries that we're looking into in sports today. Getting back to the fact that athletics not doing the things they should. It should give young people confidence, self-esteem, and a whole number of other things. And now it's like when you see parents stand up at Little League games and yelling at the umpire or yelling at they're something, doing whatever they do, there's nothing that is more distressing than that. That's not what it's all about. And it should be that way in college. I don't want to give you a sob story about this guy, but it just happened. It just happened recently. I had a player at Lamar who, I guess I forget the years, but anyway, he was a great player. And one of his teammates called me about 2 weeks ago and told me he had colon cancer. It was in really bad shape. And I didn't know what, he was raising some money. We were gonna raise some money for him. And he was there in Beaumont. He was from a little small town outside of Beaumont. And he did not have the money to go to Indiana over in Houston. So they treated him there in Beaumont. And I don't know his state right now, nobody knows, but we went to the NCAA tournament with him. Okay, this is a long time ago, when the TV money first started coming in, and we won a game. We beat Alabama, and we played Villanova in the second game. And I didn't have any idea about the finances of it. Later, we were able to, they paid us for those 2 games like $550,000. It was over $500,000, okay? Back then, what you had, the conferences didn't take the money. If you went to the NCAA tournament and you played in that tournament, the school who participated got all the money, okay? Now, they changed that. And the reason they changed that was the bureaucracy of the NCAA was getting up to speed. In other words, people were working for themselves to develop a strength where they could get some of that money. You got huge numbers of people working in the NCAA who are making $300,000 a year, doing nothing, flying all over the country to seminars or whatever we call them, to talk about the rules and whatever else you're talking about. And that just got bigger and bigger. Okay, they gave us, let me get back to the $500,000. They gave that to the school. They gave me a bonus. I don't know what to do with the rest of it. Now there's a kid who was responsible. He was responsible to a large extent. He and his teammates were almost entirely responsible for that money. They get nothing. I don't know how in the world that this can continue. I really don't. And there's a lot of things going on in college sports, but there's a lot of in areas of recruiting. I mean, but it's clean in a lot of places. There are a lot of clean programs. And those kids, I don't know the answer to it. They can't be responsible for, in the case that I told you about, no one can be responsible for paying all that. I mean, you couldn't do it. I mean, it's too big. But when you look at the people who are paying themselves as a result of what's going on, and they're paying themselves $1.5 million a year, then you've got to, that won't last. I mean, I don't see how it can last. And you as fans and you as donors, let's say, if there's any here, I'm not aware of whether you are or not, but that's not a good thing. When you have to raise ticket prices almost every year, and you require more and more money from the public. Tuition fees went up at the University of Arkansas. I'm not talking just about the University of Arkansas, but tuition went up 5.5% up there last year. 5.5%. So somebody's paying for it, paying for all this, and we have a duty as someone who understands what's going on to try to do something about it. We really do. But that type of deal is something that will last a long time, I'm sure. But it's a train wreck waiting to happen, I think. Now, in talking about the having spoken here, spoken there, Jay Dickey, remember Jay Dickey? He called me when he was running for Congress, and so he says, I was at Houston, coaching in Houston at the time, and he says, I want you to come to Emerson. And this deal here today, this is really important to me. This is maybe the second or third time I've ever spoken in Columbia County since I've left here. There's a reason for that. I'm running for Congress and I need some help. And I want you to ride in the, purple Hall P. I thought it was black-eyed peas. I said, what? Because, you know, he said, yeah. He said, they have the big, I said, well, it's only 3 blocks long. I said, you think I'm going to drive all the way from Houston? To sit in the back? I could talk to him like this because he was a teammate of mine in Arkansas. I said, you think I'm going to drive up there and ride the back end of a pickup truck 3 blocks, and you think that's going to help you get votes? But I didn't go, and he's never forgiven me for it, but I'm understanding that it is a real big deal. You know, I mean, it really is. So all you people from Emerson, I apologize for being too uppity. And we had, Emerson was a very good public school system. I had a very good coach in high school, and Don knows who that was. And he played at Emerson. He was a great player. I mean, a great player, and later played in college. And then Terry Day. Yeah, how many of you remember Terry Day? He was the first, when I first visited the University of Arkansas, he was playing. And he was one quick player. Now, he was a very, very good college player. I understand he's in Texarkana now. And I don't know him personally, but someone was talking about him the other day. That made me think of that at this point. But there are a lot of people from here who really, Cotton Staten took me to Fayetteville from Emerson. I don't know how we got in there if it hadn't been for Cotton, but he was going to work on his master's, and he picked me up and he took me up there, and it was quite an experience. I guess it took us about 10 hours to get there because you know, back in those days, in a special car he was driving. It was not the best. A lot of people here have been very. There's a lot of good people in this town. That the economy seems to be doing well, and I think about, and I read the papers and anything that happens here, and I hope that everything continues to go as it's going. And maintain your school system. I know we have the superintendent here. So important to keep a strong education system from junior high through high school, up from elementary, all the way through. Those kids are, I mean, they need help. They need help. We're fighting a lot of battles. And I know I fought this in coaching. We're fighting the battles of the internet, the movies, the music, a lot of things, you know, that can really sidetrack a young person. So keep it strong, keep it going, and hopefully the entire country, as well as Columbia County, can move forward and do better than what we've been doing. Thank you very much.
Anybody got a question? Then we got a few minutes.
Are we headed in the right direction basketball-wise at Fayetteville?
I don't know. It's all about players, you know. If you get good enough players, you can win, and anybody can. And I think that they had good players this year, pretty good players, really quick and all. But I don't know what's missing. You know, something when you win 18 games at home and then lose that many on the road, it's tough to explain why. I don't know. You'd have to be inside to really know if it's the players or the coaches. You know, you really would. You can get a bad group of players and it's impossible to coach them. I don't know if that's the case or not. Not that close to it.
Who's your proudest recruiting achievement?
Sidney Moncrief. Yep, he was good. And I'll tell you, Scott Hastings was another one. Who I went to watch Scott Hastings play in high school. And he did not, his last game, it was his last game. I was going down to North Louisiana Maple to see probably Joe Douglas, as mentioned earlier, to see a guy in the University pilot. I was scared, man, if it was any storms around me, I wasn't flying if it was any weather. And so he said, there's a line of thunderstorms down just south of Little Rock now. And I said, I'm not going. So I had an assistant with me who was from Independence, Kansas. He said, let's go to Independence. Said, Scott Hayes is playing his last game tonight. And I said, all right. That's the truth. And I went to that game. The kid did not have a scholarship offer. Kansas turned him down. Arkansas turned him. I mean, Gene Cady, you'd go and see him early in the year. And it wasn't that I knew more than they did. The kid had developed. And as soon as that game was over, I went down and offered him a scholarship, and he accepted right on the spot. And he played 12 years in the NBA. And that's a better story even for him. Than was recruited.
Rick, were you ever able to teach Don McMahon anything?
Oh, he taught me. What are you talking about?